pain strikes, why do we add a second wound ourselves? This is part 3 of Cure Insomnia Naturally with Zen Stories for Deep Sleep, a 14-part journey towards stress relief, inner peace, and a life transformed. Tonight, you'll learn to step away from self-inflicted suffering. Coming next, the sound of one hand invites you into the mystery beyond thought. And far ahead, the bridge where everything becomes clear. Share a single word in the comments that describes how you feel, so our voices can rest together in silence. The parable of the two arrows. When pain strikes, why do we shoot a second arrow into our own heart? This question, posed by the Buddha himself, is one of the most compassionate and practical inquiries in all of spiritual psychology. It holds the key to transforming our relationship with suffering, and it is a beacon of light for anyone who struggles with anxiety, grief, or the relentless voice of the inner critic. Tonight, as you seek the release of deep sleep, we will explore this profound teaching. We will learn to distinguish the pain that life gives us from the suffering we create for ourselves. Let your body soften into the surface beneath you. Feel the gentle pull of gravity, a quiet, steady anchor to the present moment. Let go of any effort to be anywhere but here. Imagine yourself walking through a forest at dusk. The air is cool, the light is fading, and the world is growing quiet. The path is soft with fallen leaves, and the trees stand like silent, ancient sentinels. There is a deep peace in this place, a sense of timeless stillness. Suddenly, you feel a sharp, searing pain in your arm. You cry out, your breath catching in your throat. You look down, and you see an arrow has pierced your arm. It came from the shadows, unexpected, uninvited. The pain is real. It is sharp, and it is unavoidable. This, the Buddha taught, is the first arrow. The first arrow is the inevitable pain of human existence. It is sickness, loss, rejection, failure. It is the death of a loved one, the end of a relationship, a sudden diagnosis, an unexpected setback. It is the simple, painful truth that life includes experiences we do not want and cannot control. No amount of meditation, no amount of wisdom can make you immune to the first arrow. It is part of the contract of being alive. So you stand there in the forest, the first arrow in your arm. The pain is coursing through you. And what happens next? What is your first thought? For most of us, the reaction is not one of simple, clean pain. Instead, a story immediately begins. Why me? This is terrible. I can't believe this happened. This shouldn't be happening. Who did this to me? I'll never recover from this. This is a disaster. My walk is ruined. My life is ruined. we begin to catastrophize. We blame, we resist, we fall into despair. And in our hand, another arrow appears, an arrow of our own making, and in our panic and rage and fear, we take that second arrow and we plunge it into our own heart. This is the second arrow. The second arrow is our reaction to the first. It is the suffering we add on top of the initial pain. It is the resentment, the self-pity, the fear, the anger, the guilt, the shame. It is the story we tell ourselves about the pain. The first arrow is painful. The second arrow is torturous. The first arrow is clean. The second arrow is poison. The first arrow is finite. The second arrow can be shot again, and again, and again, for a lifetime. The Buddha taught that the path to easing our suffering is not to try to dodge all the first arrows. That is impossible. The path is to learn not to shoot the second one. This is a revolutionary act of self-compassion. It is a core tenet of Buddhist mindfulness and a cornerstone of modern therapies like acceptance and commitment therapy act. It is the recognition that while pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. So how do we do this? How do we lay down the bow? It begins with awareness. It begins in the moment the first arrow strikes. Instead of immediately reacting, we learn to pause, to breathe, to simply be with the raw, physical sensation of the pain without adding a story to it. Let's try this now in a gentle way. Bring to mind a small pain from your life right now. A minor frustration, a small disappointment, a slight physical discomfort, a tiny first arrow. Now notice the sensation in your body. Is it a tightness, a heat, an ache? Just notice the physical reality of it. Be curious, like a scientist observing a phenomenon. And now listen for the story. Listen for the voice of the second arrow. What is it saying? This is annoying. It shouldn't be like this. This is my fault. This will never end. Just listen. No judgment. You are simply noticing the mechanism. You are seeing the second arrow as it is being formed. And now, see if you can separate the two. Acknowledge the first arrow. Yes, there is pain here. There is discomfort. You meet it with acceptance. You allow it to be there, just as it is. And then you look at the second arrow, the story, the judgment, the fear, and you gently, consciously decide not to shoot it. You can say to yourself, this is the second arrow. This is just a story. I don't have to believe it. I can let this one go. As you lie here, preparing for sleep, you may notice many second arrows flying through your mind. Worries, about not being able to fall asleep. What if I can't sleep? Tomorrow will be a disaster. I'm so bad at sleeping. This is a classic second arrow. The first arrow is simply the sensation of being awake. That's all. It's a neutral physical state. The second arrow is the story of panic and catastrophe you build around it. Can you, just for this moment, let go of that story? Can you rest in the simple fact of being awake without the added layer of suffering? Can you feel the sheets against your skin? Hear the quiet sounds of the room. Notice the gentle rise and fall of your chest, and just be with that. This is how you make yourself fall asleep, not by fighting wakefulness, but by taking the suffering out of it. You remove the second arrow, and in that space of non-resistance, the body's natural wisdom can take over. Sleep comes when we stop fighting for it. This practice is a profound act of emotional healing. It teaches you to be your own sanctuary. When life wounds you with a first arrow, you learn to tend to the wound with compassion rather than stabbing yourself again. Think about the energy it takes to keep shooting that second arrow. The mental rumination, the physical tension, the emotional turmoil. It is exhausting. It is the source of so much chronic stress, and for many, insomnia. To lay down the bow is to conserve that energy for healing. It is to create a space of inner peace where your nervous system can downregulate, where your vagal tone can increase, and where your body can find its way back to a state of rest and digest. The world will always have its share of first arrows. That is the nature of a human life. But you hold the power to choose your response. You can choose to meet pain with resistance, or you can choose to meet it with gentle, open-hearted awareness. One path leads to more suffering. The other leads to resilience, to peace, and ultimately to freedom. Let your breath be the anchor for this practice tonight. As you inhale, feel the breath gently touching the places of pain or discomfort in your body, the first arrows. Acknowledge them with kindness. I feel you. As you exhale, imagine you are releasing the story about the pain. You are letting go of the judgment, the fear, the resistance. You are laying down the second arrow. Inhale, being with what is. Exhale, letting go of what you add. Pain is fleeting, but suffering lingers only as long as we hold the bow. In this moment, the bow is in your hands. You can feel its familiar weight, but you don't have to draw the string. You can gently place it on the soft forest floor beside you. And you can turn your attention to the feeling of the earth beneath you, the coolness of the air on your skin, the quiet, rhythmic pulse of your own heart. But Can we find sweetness even as arrows fly? Can there be a moment of pure, unadulterated joy, even when we are hanging by a thread, surrounded by danger? In the story of the monk and the strawberry, you'll taste the joy that blooms even in peril, waiting for us to notice. For now, rest in the space you have created, the space between the arrows. It is a space of quiet, of relief, of profound peace. It is the space where healing happens. It is the space where you can finally, deeply rest. Let this story be your gentle guide into the land of dreams, a world where there are no second arrows, only the soft release into stillness. From the arrow's sting, a sweetness calls, like a strawberry ripening in the monk's trembling hand.